I'm just so upset right now, I can't hear you. I'm going to go and I'm going to come back and I promise we'll talk about this. And even to maybe say, give me a half an hour, or maybe it's only 10 minutes, or maybe it's tomorrow.
For some couples, probably many couples, fighting, arguing, even aggressive behavior can feel normal. Is there some way that we can help people who are in these kind of classically aggressive, high conflict relationships use conflict more constructively, or how can we help these people?
Well, it's a good question. First of all, they have to want help. We all know that, right?
Yes.
And secondly, people who are very aggressive come in two categories. One are the ones who are aggressive around issues, and then there are the people who are personality-based who are aggressive. And we have to be able to distinguish that. Some people like to trample on issues, some people like to trample on people. And so it's important to make that distinction. And what we have to do is become a bit of a matador. We've got to be able to let it go by and then come and say, what's really happening here? But what we tend to do is put issues between us like two dogs with bone, instead of sitting down together and putting the issue on the wall, right? So we're endeavoring to do all this pulling and being right and righteous and justified, and we have to learn new skills. Now, in the case of the person who's issue-based, we can learn skills of negotiation, conflict management, anger management, and things. But one of the specialties that I have is working with people who are personality-based, meaning that they've had so much pain, so much fear, that we can't expect much from them except that they're going to fight.
Right.
They're fighting for their life, they're fighting for breath, they're fighting to be right, they're fighting for their place. And no matter what you do, you have conflict. So we need to separate those two things out. We can help both, but it always comes down to ability to have the skills and willingness to want to change.
Sometimes when couples come into my office and they're arguing a lot and they're saying we don't know how to communicate and we really need help, they'll start talking in the office and I'll get a sense of what's happening between them. And occasionally they'll just sort of keep going at each other, almost sort of like a cat fight or something. And one of the basic things to help these couples with is take a breath. And you don't have to solve it now. You can take a break. And in fact, it's important, there's a popular way of disciplining children with timeouts. Sometimes I even say to my children when we're in something and I see that my son isn't hearing me quite right, or maybe my daughter, or I'm not hearing them at the end of a long day or something, I'll say, I'm going to go take a break for a little while, and then I'm going to come back so I can hear you better. And I think for people in conflict, couples in conflict, especially when they're feeling very young or vulnerable or wounded or criticized, whatever it is, to be able to say, you know what, I'm just so upset right now, I can't hear you. I'm going to go and I'm going to come back and I promise we'll talk about this. And even to maybe say, give me a half an hour, or maybe it's only 10 minutes, or maybe it's tomorrow. Let's talk tomorrow.
It takes some real wisdom to know that you can do that.
And it takes the ultimately the belief that your partner does want to hear you, to know that they do want to know what's going on with you and you want to hear them. But in this moment, they've reverted back to when they're really young or something. And they don't feel like they have skills to get through it, and just taking a break is okay. It's a good thing to do when you're not getting anywhere and you're just digging a deeper hole.
Well, I could talk about what happened with Harville and me, because we are so nice when we first meet you.
Yes, how are you?
I am so, and Harville is so warm and gracious, and but we are both like butt heads, like goats when we get together, and we are very competitive, and we're not going to let either dominate a situation or an issue. But at one point it was really, we were not taking care of the care in our relationship. It's finally, last resort, we took the bull by our own hands and tried to treat ourselves, and we found a solution that every night before going to bed we did a check-in about what had happened and transpired in the relationship. And we really began to languish on negativity. When negativity creeps into a relationship, it is deadly. So I suggested we go to the dime store. We got a calendar, and at the end of the evening, we began to look at the day and say, did I do anything that was negative to you? And he would tell me how I had been negative, and vice versa. And I learned so much. And that really stuck, and we both really began to strive every day for a zero negativity day.
I was getting feedback from my children and from Helen about my tone of voice and my certainty about what I was saying. Then I start thinking each day, how am I saying this? And so I'm saying things firmly often, and I don't mean to be negative, but I am certain, but it feels like an erasure of the other person because of the certainty.
Right.
So just getting the feedback on a daily basis about what is there, and I'm not even, criticizing you, I'm not putting you down, I'm just being Harville, but Harville is a firm negative tone, a certainty that feels scary to people. That was really helpful. So you can, if you don't get that feedback on a regular basis, it's like a feedback loop.
Then you don't know.
Then it's hard to know, and it's hard to change.
Hard to change.
Well, what I found remarkable, Helen, about your example of how you and Harville managed through a difficult time was you were willing to be observers. And maybe not the case every night, but willing to be observers of the situation, almost like how we say scientists are. So we take notes. What was it about that, and try to not become attached emotionally, at least in the moment, to what may have been coming up for your partner. And what does that mean? And asking those kind of questions and not taking offense to it right away, kind of breathing through it, using some mindfulness techniques, asking where are my feet, feeling the breath in your chest, and trying to stay in the moment. Because your leftovers want to come up and they want to take over. And I think it's important to kind of keep those leftovers at bay when in conflict.
That's right. Well, this has been a great discussion for so many of us who are either in high conflict relationships or fight from time to time, to understand it's normal and it's a powerful way to get closer. And a couple of quick tips. One, to be able to say, hey, I'm really upset and I want to walk away, so we can have a constructive conversation. And to be curious, so rather than freaking out, you can take a more curious stance, and hopefully that can diffuse the situation and end up making a constructive opportunity out of it. Great.